clean up real good.
You
We
owe
all
me
still
money.
look like us.
Yeah, right.
Do I still owe you money? Probably.
Well, I think it's great to see
Yes,
everybody.
it's great to see everybody, and everybody looks, I recognize everybody.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it's like a high school reunion, sort of. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's been a long time, you
It
guys.
has been a long time.
I know.
27 years?
I know, and I've been terrible about keeping in touch.
Oh, you always were.
I know.
You're consistent. We talked about this last time we were on camera, and
When were we on camera last?
your show,
The Vicky Show.
the Vicky Show. You had a.
You had a talk show back in the 80s.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes, I
90s,
remember that.
early-
And
We did an episode of it, that's right.
everybody
That's
recalled everything in detail except me. I said, "Oh, God, I don't remember that." Who did that?
Well, today it will be at least 4 of us in the same boat. So Alan maybe is still young enough to remember everything.
I was watching your television archives interview that you did for the Academy, the archive interview.
Oh, yes.
I don't know why. I was researching you for some reason. And you had this long story about how you became Philip on the Eunice special. And you said, well, many people played Philip. Roddy McDowell played him. And I'm like, yeah, that's correct. Alan Alda played him. No, he never did. Tommy Smothers played him. I'm like, well, Kenny, no, he never did.
I was told that.
No, they actually played Children of Mamas in sketches on the Carol Burnett show.
I'll be damned.
But only you and Roddy McDowell ever played Philip. And then you, I don't know how, do you know how you became Benton?
No, it was sudden, and I didn't even know that it was going to happen. And Philip was a character that was successful, and he was smart, and he was so the audience in those days for the sketch was seeing this crazy family through his eyes, and identifying with him. And then I played that part, and I thought that was the part that I had been signed to do on Mama's Family, the television series.
Really?
Uh-huh. Yeah, until I went to work.
So what?
And Kenny told
And
me.
it said Benton.
Yeah.
And you said, who the hell's Benton?
Like there was
Guess what? That
anybody
was the-
smart on Mama's Family, like Philip.
Well, that was the second time. After we were on the network for 2 years, and then we were off for 2 years, and then they were sold it to syndication, and I went to Fox in Hollywood, and I get out of my car in the parking lot, and I hear Alan, whom I've never met, say, "Hi, Uncle Vent," and I thought, what? I didn't have any idea.
It's so very mysterious, Mama's Family, isn't it?
I was so excited, I just called everybody by their character name for the first month. Yeah. It was, forgive me, but I thought it was quite, a privilege to have a parking space next to Ken Berry. I pulled in, and there's my name on I got my own parking space. That was big, and then Kenny's parking space was right next to mine.
It took me 40 years to get my name on a chair.
So we pulled in at the same time, and then there he was.
Did I drive my impressive car that day?
You had a nice. What were you driving that day? It was a Porsche. It was a Porsche.
When I'm trying to impress people, I used to drive my Porsche.
It looked good.
What'd you bring today?
A 97 Honda van.
See, you don't give a damn anymore.
The paint is gone. Things are doing really great outside of that.
I remember Big Al, Vicky's husband, and his Rolls Royce.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
And I was like, wow, Al, that is great. He goes, honey, there's one of these waiting for you out here.
Oh.
I know.
Wow.
I just arrived from
But
New
you
York.
don't drive. Do you drive? Did you drive? You drove when you were in LA, right?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Oh, you have to. How can you live here and not? My goodness.
Because I was talking to Carol about you, how you ended up on the show, and I think she was largely responsible for that casting because it was mandatory that we take lunch during All My Children on the Burnett show. That was just mandatory. And I thought, well, I don't think most people were watching it. I think Carol mostly. And I thought, well, I guess I'll get hooked on it because Carol's hooked on it. And we both fell in love. I mean, everybody was in love with you.
Oh, thank you.
As Opal Gardner. And unbeknownst to me, I was actually watching thinking, God, I wish we could find somebody like that to play Naomi in the series. And unbeknownst to me, they were also thinking the same thing. So I remember when Joe mentioned, what would you think about Dorothy Lyman? I was like, hell yes. But you were commuting.
And then one day the phone rang in my little apartment in New York City, and a woman's voice said, "Hello, Dorothy, this is Carol Burnett." And I was like, all right, which of my girlfriends is pulling this on me now? Who is this really? She goes, "No, it really is. Would you like to come out to California, and do a show with us?" And I was like, are you insane? Of course I would.
Really?
But then a few weeks later, my agent called up and said they're terribly sorry, but they've decided that they're not going to use you after all. It's too complicated, whatever. And I was like heartbroken. And then a friend of mine who was a manager said, "No, Dorothy, in this business, a verbal commitment is binding. So they're either going to pay you to be in that show or you're going to be in that show." At which point I had my agent, who was really against this idea, I said, "You've got to call Joe Hamilton and tell him that I will come out there. I'll pay to come out. I got to meet Vicki. I just want to get in the room with these people. And then if they don't want me, fine. They don't have to use me." And she called me up and she said, "I'm astounded, but Joe Hamilton said, yes, you're going to go, so pack up and go out there." And I said, "And the other thing I need is for Joe to come and meet me at the hotel before I go into the room with the writers and Vicki." I said, "Because I want at least to know somebody, have somebody in my corner before I walk into that situation." So Joe came to the hotel, we had some breakfast, and then he took me over, and we met. And they said, "Would you like Vicki to wear the mama's outfit?" And I said, "No, she doesn't need to do that."
They volunteered to put me in that?
And so we had a lovely meeting. I met you.
Suit her up.
You were so gracious to me. And then after that, they said, okay, you can be in it.
Really?
And then we shot a
Because I
pilot.
thought you were like a given from the very get-go.
No, it took a little bit of wrangling. I don't know what the slip was, maybe because I still was under contract to the soap opera. So for that first season, while I was finishing up my commitment to ABC, to the soap, y'all did tape on Sunday for me so that I could be part of it. Your work week went from Wednesday to Sunday. And Monday, Tuesday, I had to do all my soap work and then come out, and I got to miss the first day, Wednesday. That was my flying day. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we did the show, and then... Yeah, that was when it was on the network. So I could see why they were like, "Can't you find a local woman to play this part? Why do we have to schlep this gal with all these conflicts?" So
Yeah, because you used to call it all my paychecks.
that's right. I did Another World for 4 years in the late 70s and early 80s, and I referred to that as another meatball. No, I did the soaps for like 15 years before you and Carol liberated me from that daily grind.
Wow, and now most of them are gone.
I know, shocking.
Yeah.
No, all my children now is on the internet. They've put it back on streaming. You have to go on the internet to see it now.
Wow.
They went back into motion with that. So
Wow.
Yep.
How'd they cast you?
I never heard that story.
There's going to be a lot of stuff you haven't heard here today.
I hope. Wait till I start talking about how I tried to get you to sleep with me for 9 years.
Seriously, you guys locked lips so much. All I can think, I've been watching these episodes. Oh, you guys should have invested in chapstick or something, because it was like every other scene. The lip lock.
My whole concept for that part was the Barbie doll. And I wanted to bring back marital sex. I wanted to look like being married was like the greatest thing that could ever happen to you.
Well, boy, howdy, I think
And-
you did it.
Absolutely.
My secret
Absolutely.
agenda.
Well, I was 22. I had been in town for 2 years and probably been on 400 auditions, and I was just wanted to be an actor. I had done a couple of movies, and my manager, he fought really hard to get me an audition for this show. I mean, he battled with them for reasons, I think, of aesthetics. I don't know what they had in mind, but evidently I was not it. And finally, I think Gilda did us a favor, and she said, okay, but I met with her and everything, and then I came in for the audition. I felt so strongly, committed, but also I just knew who this guy was. I just really felt like I knew who he was, and I came in and I left feeling great about, you know when you don't do good, when you feel like you knocked it out of the park, and the first one I really felt like I killed it. And then she brought me back for Rick Hawkins, And I felt terrific about that audition. And then a few days went by and they brought me back for a third audition with Vicki. And a whole panel of, I didn't realize that the wardrobe and the makeup and the writers and the director and all, there was a panel of people, probably 12 or 15 producers and everybody else on the staff. And here I am standing toe to toe with a legend, and I'm scared to death. And the third, well, I watched you too,
Yes.
And the third one, I killed it. Best audition I ever had, ever. And I walked out of there, and just the look on your face when they introduced you to me and we did the audition, and I could tell Vicki liked me for the role. I really felt good, like she likes me. I just knew it. I think we had an instant chemistry. So then, 3-4 days goes past, and we don't hear anything, and all of a sudden they've scheduled a fourth audition, and they want to look at 2 or 3 more guys other than myself, one of which is from New York, which really freaked me out. To this day, I've still never been to New York, and to me, like, a New York actor is like somebody probably with much more talent than myself. And I had the weekend to think about it, and so I mind screwed that for about 5 days, and I came in on the fourth audition, was the worst moment of my life, and somehow I ended up with the part anyway. I was scared to death.
I
and all these
probably
days,
already made up my mind. 'Cause
bless
I
your
remember
heart.
seeing you and thinking, okay, not only is he drop dead adorable, but he's a natural redhead, which will kind of,
That you always.
cement my kind of. Now, people will now maybe believe that I'm a natural redhead. It kind of goes with the whole family thing.
He remembered the name of the casting director. I still can't get past that.
Seriously.
You remember the name of the casting
That's
director?
very impressive.
Jeez Louise.
Okay, what about you?
Well, I don't remember much.
Okay.
You'll be
Well, there you
surprised to hear. But I do remember sitting in the audition room reading the side and looking at 6 or 8 gals or whoever. And I was reading this thinking, this is really funny. I really like this. This is really funny. And everybody else in the room was like rolling their eyes because they don't like sketch comedy. People weren't used to sketch comedy. So they weren't looking at it as sketch comedy. They were looking at it as, a different kind of sitcom. And they didn't know what the heck to do with it. But I just thought it was hilarious. And I remember absolutely nothing about the audition except I didn't know I didn't know what Raytown, Missouri meant. I didn't know what accent do you use for Missouri, So I just copied you. I just thought, I'll just do what Vicki does. And the scene that Rick wrote, I don't know if you remember it, was the only thing I remember was gossiping about neighbors and Roselle Huplander. And how Roselle Huplander, and how she just, nobody just has a bad word to say about her. She's just wonderful. I remember when my sweet Dixie got off her leash and got hit by that car. Before we had time to call the vet, Roselle showed up, a little Pyrex of Elpo. And I cannot forget that line. That's all I remember. Just a little Pyrex of Elpo. That was Rick. That was classic Rick.
Oh my gosh. So beautifully written, his stuff.
It was a style of comedy, of sitcoms, which fell out of fashion after we did it or while we were doing it. And Friends came along, and suddenly it was all, terribly real and, sort of glamour and young. I mean, it wasn't. I think that's why this show is such classic television, because it really it represents an era which really ended.
Well, I think our fans are legions, and I can tell you because I'm around the country doing my show, which is half me and half Mama, and we have. I think this show is a lot of people's guilty pleasure. A lot of people just laughed their asses off at Mama's Family for no good reason. And but when we first started on NBC, because we were greenlighted by Grant Tinker, without a pilot. I don't think they ever embraced us at NBC. Well, I know they didn't, because Brandon Tartikoff was the head of development at the time. And he and all of his little young guns, number one, did not understand rural comedy, and number two, did not understand at all a young woman playing an old woman. So we were like almost doomed from the get-go over there, I feel like.
Yeah.
It was sort of, I mean, I remember, you probably remember, Kenny, they kept putting us in horrible time slots.
Yep.
Like, we'll stick you next to the Love Boat and see how you do there. And we would do okay. So, well, damn it, we're moving you next to Magnum P.I. Jeez, is this a gift? Thank you. I mean, they just kept sticking us in these horrible slots until I think they felt like they had the ammunition to cancel us. And, because I remember the young guys hanging around, the suits, hanging around that show, just
Warren
absolutely having
Littlefield.
no idea what was going on. They just didn't get it.
And then when we were canceled after 36 episodes on the network, almost 2 years went by because I had time to have a baby, you know. And my youngest son, Jackson, was 10 months old when we went back to work to produce The 100 directly for syndication.
Right.
But in that summer, they had done it as a summer rerun. They had put the 36 episodes on in the summer, and the ratings were so extraordinary that Laura Martella Pictures then decided to pick it up directly for syndication.
Really?
Yeah.
Truly?
Yeah, because
Because
it had
our
done
reruns did well.
so well that summer. They had just intended to just run them that summer, and then that would be it. So, yep.
How
then
funny!
when-
And that's when all those changes happened. For, I guess, whatever reason, the network felt they needed those two young kids in the network version,
Gone, and
who never really, bless their hearts, I'm not sure they really ever got too much of a chance to shine there. But then they reconfigured the whole thing for the syndication. I think they still felt they needed some young eye candy. And then they needed, of course, another
They needed
antagonist for Mama.
And when we premiered here, and of course it was first run syndication, so it was on in different markets at different times, on different affiliates all over the country.
Right.
But I remember here in Los Angeles, it was on Saturday evening before the Cosby Show. Cosby was on at 7 or 7:30, and we led into the Cosby Show, which was
Good
a
time slot. I
fantastic slot
remember
for us.
pulling into Fox when we started the first run syndication, which was not done back then. The only
we were
other
the first
show.
show. No, we were the first
We were
show.
the second show. Too
Oh, the
Close
second.
for Comfort was doing it, and I thought, okay, if Ted Knight can do it, then we can do it. But it was not really done, and it was almost like working in sort of a vacuum because you weren't really embraced by the television community. We
Right.
were like little orphans, sort of.
Yeah. Now, did they ever consider, were Rue and Betty just busy, or did they?
by that time, she was on Golden Girls.
Yeah, they left for Golden Girls between the network
And
and
the
the syndicated
syndication, yeah,
version.
that's
I
what I
lost them both.
Right.
Yeah.
Then they killed off Aunt Fran in the first episode.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
we
well, that
had
was-
to
that
because she was
Rue.
busy.
Yeah.
Has Rue left us for real?
Yes, she has. And oh my God, she was so gone. You guys, well, would you? No, you wouldn't have been there for the audition, but she came in totally in Fran drag.
Really?
For that audition, and there was just never any question at all that she wouldn't be Fran. Cause
Really?
Oh yeah, and do you remember rehearsing with? I remember her being such a stickler about the props. I wanted to kill her because it couldn't. The plastic silverware wouldn't do it. It had to be real silverware. Our prop guy Steve, she used to drive him.
You said she had
insane.
like her own little prop locker, and it
Oh,
was all of her props,
Please.
and they were all organized.
He would
and-
collect
yeah.
for her because she was such a lunatic about everything needing to be the way it was going to be. She was just a
No,
fanatic.
but she tickled me when you know they have the tape on the floors indicating that these are stairs, you know, and in
Yeah.
tape, and she'd come out and she'd go,
Tiptoe up every individual.
She marched up and down.
was really going down the stairs. I loved her.
She was incredible. It's just, that brain, that thought process was just incredible. Yeah.
And what about Effie? Was she wasn't in network? Aunt Effie?
I'm sure she was because
Was she?
that was Dorothy Van, and she was one of our writers.
Yeah.
Ain't Effie.
So Aunt Effie was
So
in the first
they were
incarnation
there
as well.
from the
were they?
get-go. Yeah, I don't know if you ever saw Aunt Effie.
And
I
is
know
the,
you heard her.
Oh.
is the original head writer cryogenically frozen?
Yes. Dick Clare's head is cryogenically frozen, and
Did he announce that at the time? Was that his plan?
yeah,
I knew about it.
yes.
But
Wow.
yeah, that's.
Yeah, that is his plan.
Yep.
Did you ever?
Outstanding.
Did Rick ever tell you? I'm sure he did. The story about meeting Dick Clare's mother, who,
No.
who I am told was the model for Mama.
Oh, really?
And it was a Carol Burnett Christmas party, I think it was, and Rick was introduced by Dick to his mother, and he said, "Mother, this is Rick Hawkins, who he wrote that episode you like so much, the Gone with the Wind episode." And she said, "It was all right." So there's
Oh,
a
dear.
couple more seconds of awkward conversation, and Rick said, "Well, Mrs. Clare, it was just wonderful to meet you, and Merry Christmas." And he said, "Happy holidays to you." And she said, "Don't you happy holidays me. I am a Christian. You say Merry Christmas or you say nothing at all."
Wow.
And that's what Mama was based on.
Well, there you go.
That would explain a lot.
Yeah.
Wow. Gosh.
Where
That,
was he from? Indiana? It was not the South,
Dick.
was it?
I never met Dick Clare. I don't know.
Yeah.
well, they
trying to
never
remember
intended it to be Southern. You know, they were appalled that that family was ever Southern. They were appalled that I played Mama. They were appalled that Carol was Eunice. They were appalled that she wanted to do it Southern. They were mortified. They've just assumed we had ruined the entire, you know, that they both wrote this beautiful homage to their dysfunctional family, and we ruined it.
Oh, really?
Look at us.
Well, I remember my character in the original pilot, which was scrapped and never shown. I lived next door. We weren't married in that one.
There is an episode. You're in the first episode as the next door neighbor.
Yeah, and I had like 6 kids or something and a line of
I don't know
wash.
if
And
you
you and
had-
I used to, the character was conceived as someone that you kind of came over and, you know, could talk to. It was not a part of your family, but
Iola.
I guess. Yeah.
No, she was Naomi Oates.
Yeah, it was Naomi Oates.
No,
but
I'm saying she's
the-
just
the-
a neighbor.
The same
a
symbol.
friend.
yes.
Neighbor friend.
No, but we didn't have a pilot, and that was I think a lot of the problem for the writers, because they had to kind of figure out, they had to get from the family on the Burnett show to Mama's family, you know, and make it a fun sitcom and figure it out on the ground while they were running, you know.
So
It was-
when did you get married?
Well,
If you started-
we shot that.
Early on.
We shot that one where I was the neighbor. And then that went back to New York, and a couple months went by, and then they said they've reconfigured it, so and then they started over with Now We Were Together. Or the first episode was our wedding. The first 2 episodes had to do with our wedding. Remember, and Carol came.
It was pretty early on.
Yeah.
It was pretty early on, those episodes. Not the, I don't think the first episode was Vent and the kids move in.
Oh,
And you were just briefly in that episode as a neighbor,
I
I
was
believe.
coming in and saying hi or something, yeah.
Yeah.
They took theatrical license. Let's just assume they got married during this.
Well, there
No,
has
there was a
been-
wedding.
No, there was a wedding. There was a wedding.
Yeah, we had a.
Yeah.
we
But
had
there
a
was
fun
much
wedding.
theatrical license
You will.
on Mama's Family, I think. I actually died in the Eunice special
Oh, my God.
that aired on
you?
CBS. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when he
as
played
good as
Philip.
JR. Who shot JR? It's every bit as good. Yeah, she died. She had many kids that we never saw. Whatever happened to Philip? Whatever. Where the hell did Eunice? Where did Vinton come from?
Yeah.
Never spoken of prior to the many theatrical licenses, which the fans seem to
Yeah.
just kind of
They're
roll
okay
with.
with.
They roll with it.
Well, I'm sure when y'all talk to Rick Hawkins, he'll be able to.
Maybe he'll clarify a lot of this.
Clarify.
Fill in some
We were
blanks.
headed for Phoenix for some pie in the sky investment that we were going to make.
That's right. You're going to run
Yeah.
a trailer park.
Yeah, trailer park. That's right. Yeah, and then I just saw that episode about 2 days ago, and I can't remember that. And Tommy Smothers was in that episode.
He was?
He played. He played. No, I'm kidding.
Oh.
That's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. I was sure somebody told me that.
No. Tommy Smothers and Ellen Alda played sons of Mamas in sketches on the Burnett Show. Couldn't tell you their names. I don't remember.
Huh.
One time only. We never saw them again. But there were many people on the Burnett Show that guested on the Burnett Show that wanted to be specifically in those family sketches because they loved the characters so much. So,
Oh,
yeah. You were never on.
I never did one of those.
No. Never.
But didn't you do more guest appearances on the Carol Burnett show than anybody?
Oh no.
I thought you had
don't-
the record.
They were great to me in the first place, and they hired me like once a year.
Okay.
And then the last year, then Carol decided to use some of her friends more often. And I think I was on it 5 times that last year. But that was just because it was winding up.
Hi, Grandma. Did you know you're out of ice cream?
Papa, Higgins, what in the world are you doing here?
Well, I got out 3 months early for good behavior.